Alright, welcome back for another video on while loops. So loops are pretty powerful. We can do quite a few things with them. So in this video, we're going to trace a loop and to find out what it does and do a little practice tracing on paper, and then also see a couple other applications of loops or what we can use them to do in our programs. So first up is this set of code, and the question is, what is the loop counting? So we see a variable called count, we see that it's incrementing inside the loop, and the question is, what is this loop counting? And so when you're tracing on paper, when you can't type it in and run it, sometimes it's harder to follow through. So we're going to just go through step by step. So first you want to set the values for these variables up there. So each one of these statements only happens once. So once we're done with those, we don't have to come back to them. And so, and then as we go through the while loop, we'll see the values changing. So again, I've talked before about setting up columns for input, and I see here there's a value that we read in from the user with input.nextInt, and then I put value into num. So in this next one, that value goes away, but we know that when we only see num here, let's pretend that line of code is still there, that we've gotten something from the user, we've put it in num, so rather than hard coding it, we've gotten it from the user. Alright, so let's say the user typed in 7842, so this is where we start, and so these variables have been given these values, and now we're set up to go through our loop, and the first question is the num variable greater than 0? And if that is true, which it is, we will go ahead into the loop and do num equals num divided by 10, and we will add 1 to count. So once we do that, num divided by 10 is 784. We store that back in num, and then we increment count. So then I come back up again and ask the question, is num now greater than 0? And it still is, so we indeed go back into the loop, and we do 784 divided by 10, which is 78, store that in num, and then increment count. So count is now 2. Ask the question again, is num bigger than 0? It still is, it's 78. So we go back into the loop, and we do all the loop body there, the num equals num divided by 10, and then the count plus plus. Ask the question again in the loop. 7 is bigger than 0, so we go in another time. 7 divided by 10 is 0. That gets stored in num, but we do the count plus plus. And now when I ask what the question is num bigger than 0, I get a no, so I end the loop. And so right now count has 4 in it, and so the question is, what does this algorithm do? And if you didn't figure out, it's counting how many digits this number has. So in the original example of code on the first slide, again it was read in from the user, and then count was printed out at the end. So we could type this in. Now if I were to type this into a program, I had to add all this, of course, to the code, but the rest is what's not highlighted right now is straight from the slide. And so I can always plug in some code from slides and go ahead and run it. And you'll notice it says executing, and you know at the school sometimes you're waiting for something to happen. Well, in the original code there was no prompt to enter the user input. It's accepting it here, but there's no system out print line, please enter a number. And so it just sits here and it's waiting, but sometimes it takes you a minute. So if I do that, I think it was 7842, I get the 4 back, which is the count. If I run it again and do 78421, now I have 5 digits in that number, I get 5. If I do 23, there are 2 digits there, I'll get a 2. 1 gets 1. This should give me a 9. So you can see this loop is nice, that the input can vary, and it's going to adjust. The loop helps us adjust. And so I'm going to go ahead and add that print line, or print, so that I know what to do here for entering a number. There. And so now at least when I run it, I'll get a prompt and it won't just sit there without me knowing what it wants me to do. And that'll help us for later. Okay, so if you think back to your digits lab where you took a 4-digit number and you printed out 4,000 plus 300 plus 20 plus 1 for the number 4321, you could now alter that program to handle any size. You'd have to think a little bit about the logic of it, but you should be able to alter that so that if I entered 23, you could say 20 plus 3 is 23. Whereas before we had while loops, we really had to set it at only 4 digits because without the while loop, you didn't know how many digits it would have. And the solution would be somewhat similar to this. It might use some of this logic. So that's just one other thing we can do with a while loop, just kind of showing some of the power of what we can do with things. And so the next thing we want to talk about is helping our program execution. And so there's 2 other things we do with our while loop, and one is we can use the while loop to create a run again option. So if you noticed on here, every time I wanted to run this, I kept having to say run, either clicking the run symbol or Control R gets it to run. And so wouldn't it be nice if it just kept asking me for a number, now that it asked for a number, if it just kept asking until maybe I enter a -1 or I enter something different to let it know that I want to stop. And so here is an example where there's some code that's saying enter a number, enter another number, it's multiplying them together and giving the output. But now it's giving the user an option to keep running the program. So here is the while loop, and as long as the user is entering the letter Y, it's going to keep running the program. So in order to get that to work, you see all the highlighted code. I need a variable that's going to hold that letter Y, and at first I set it to Y so that when I ask this question, does this variable again equal Y? And just a reminder that strings, I cannot use the equal symbol. I have to use dot equals for strings because they're object types. So this is as if it's an equal for primitive. So this is asking if that variable equals this, then go ahead and ask for input, do the multiplication, and then here you'll almost see the same, well not the same, but you'll see then we're prompting the user to enter a Y or an N this time. So here we hard-coded the Y to force us to go into the loop. Here, now I'm going to prompt the user and let them tell me whether they want to run this program again or not. Now, remember there is no next string, so I just read in the user's input with next. And as long as they enter a capital Y, I'll keep going. But really, any other input they give me is going to make this quit, even if it's not an N. So any other string value is going to make this quit. The only thing that will make this loop continue is if what they enter is this capital Y. So again, here we read into that variable whatever the user entered. And so that allows us to run the program over and over again. So I have another example of this with just how the syntax would change if it's a do while loop. So for this one I had to set this to force you to go in the loop the first time, but with a do while loop it always goes in one time. So it's kind of a nice solution. I prompt here still and I get the input from the user here, but now I don't have to ask that question till the end, and so I'll still keep going as long as a Y is entered. So that's another use of a while loop or a loop. Another thing we can use loops for is to verify that the input entered is correct. So when we ask the user for an integer greater than 0 we can make sure that it's greater than 0 before we continue processing. So we can check for valid input. This can help us prevent things like dividing by 0. What if we ask for input and we say don't enter a 0 and they enter a 0? If we don't check and have some adjustment for it, then we may end up dividing by 0. So this would allow the user, this would keep prompting the user to enter the correct input. So the pseudocode for this is to ask for the user input. So please enter a number greater than 0. Read the user input, and then if what they've entered is invalid, we repeat those original two things. We ask again, and we read in again. Go back up. Is it valid now? If it's not, ask again, read it in again. So this is just an example of pseudocode. I know pseudocode's a little hard to write, but you'll see here's a little code piece, but some of the rest is just kind of English, getting our logic. What's the order of events that's going to happen? So we have an example here where, for whatever reason, the user was prompted to enter a number greater than 10, and here we read in their input. And then here, if it's not greater than 10, which means it's less than or equal to 10, we say invalid, and we prompt again, and we read in again. And so we keep, that will keep repeating until they finally enter a 10, and then we can continue in our program, and whatever we wanted to do with that 10, we now, or with that, whatever we want to do with that number greater than 10, we can now do. Here's another example that uses a string. So maybe when we're asking, so similarly before when we asked the user to quit with a yes or no, here if we ask them to enter two different letters, we can now make sure that they're entering a P or a Q. So if you recall back here and here, if they didn't enter an N, if they entered a Q, it would still quit. And so we could have added some sort of check here to make sure they enter a Y or an N, and just keep saying the options are Y and N, right? So here you'll notice, again, now that I'm working with strings, I'm using next, and because I'm working with strings, I have this dot equals, and remember the while loop is saying while I don't have what I want. So while I don't have something equal to P and I don't have something equal to Q, keep asking for a P or a Q and keep reading user input. So the next task for you is to take an old program like spherecalc, digits, or triangle type, and see if you can alter it. So these are all programs that received user input. So maybe alter it to verify that the input is valid. Digits may not make sense. Spherecalc might be the best example of this because a negative radius isn't allowed. And then after you've got that working, where it forces them to enter a valid radius, then add the functionality for them to keep entering different radii until a Q is pressed.